I was just so scared at the moment. I was just like, I felt like I had my baby shower and I was like, I don't want to lose my baby. Like, that was the last thing I wanted.
What is up, everyone? I'm your host, Alannized, and this is Noche de Pendejadas, your favorite podcast turned talk show en donde yo te traigo a tus influencers favoritos para platicar y posiblemente sacarle sus trapitos al sol. Hoy les tengo un episodio que yo sé que allá en casita están súper emocionadas de escuchar y ver. So without any further ado, please help me welcome my guest tonight, Delayza. ¿Cómo estás, amiga? Bienvenida al podcast y bienvenida a California.
Gracias.
I am so excited de tenerte aquí el día de hoy. We've been following each other ya por mucho tiempo.
Yes.
And I actually had reached out to you a couple of months back. Y no se hizo en ese entonces. And I'm so excited de tenerte aquí el día de hoy because I feel like ever since I've been following you, he visto, you know, when you were posting a lot, then you went a little MIA y luego regresaste con todo lo que das. So I'm so excited de pues tenerte aquí el día de hoy para poder platicar un poquito más.
Yes, I'm so happy to be here. I've watched your podcast and your YouTube videos when your intro was puras malas palabras. So it's an honor to be here. I'm so excited. When you messaged me, I was pregnant, but I was, you know, keeping it on the low, especially because I didn't announce my pregnancy till I was 8 months. So when you reached out, I was like, oh, how do I tell him I'm pregnant? I'm hiding it right now. So I'm so excited to be
I feel
here.
like the times work perfectly, you know what I mean? Because Dios quiso que lo hiciéramos hoy, por eso aquí estamos, amigas.
Yes.
I'm so excited. You've been so requested on the podcast. Yo sé que tus girlies ahí te andan etiquetando cada vez que posteo. ¿A quién? You know what's so funny? I don't know if you saw a couple days ago, this girl's like, I've been asking for her. And I was like, ya, amigas, no se ataquen. Hoy la tengo aquí con nosotros el día de hoy. Antes de que empecemos, te voy a dar a ti el micrófono para que nos digas un poquito más de quién eres y qué haces.
Pues mi nombre es Delayza Naylea. I am 20 years old. I've been doing YouTube since 2017. I've been trying to get more on like TikTok and like Snapchat and stuff, but I've strictly been doing YouTube for the last couple years, since like middle school, I believe. I just recently became a mom to a beautiful baby girl. Her name is Alannized, and I'm now engaged. So
Hoy llegaste de Arizona. Cuéntanos un poquito más de tu día. ¿A qué hora te levantaste? How was, you know, your flight? Cuéntanos todo.
Well, I woke up at 7 since my baby woke up. And then I didn't pack last night, so I started packing and I had my flight and everything. I was there extra early just because I knew something was gonna go wrong. And, well, it didn't go wrong, but they told me I had a fake ID, girl. And it wasn't a fake ID. It was just because I didn't have like a little star on my ID or whatever. But the flight was actually really good. It was just a little windy, so it was a little scary. Por todo lo que está pasando, los aviones que se están estrellando and everything. Girl, I was like in my
me
seat.
toca a mí, me toca a mí, ojalá
por
que
favor,
no.
tengo que llegar. So it was actually a little scary, pero gracias a Dios aquí estamos, and I'm really excited. So,
No, I'm actually
venía con
so
muchos
excited.
nervios.
Were you nervous like before you were coming when Irma went to go pick you up?
Yes,
I
I
was
was so
telling her, you
nervous.
guys, I still get nervous whenever I meet someone, especially cuando es como nuestra primera vez conociéndonos. Before Irma went to go pick her up to the hotel, I was like, Irma, I was like putting on my lash. I was like, sírveme un shot para los nervios. Me la tomé, you guys, y todavía ando bien nervioso, pero yo sé que ahorita se me van a calmar los nervios en cuanto empecemos a platicar. I want to know a little bit more about your story. So cuéntanos, ¿cómo fue tu infancia? How were you growing up? Cuéntanos un poquito de eso.
Growing up, I lived with my grandparents. My mom was a single mom. So growing up, I lived my whole life with my nana, my tata. And I feel like a lot of people are always like, why? Like, why did you live with your grandparents? It's nothing like bad or not because I didn't know my mom or anything like that. And nothing crazy. It was just simply siempre he vivido con mis abuelitos and I loved living with them. They made me have the best childhood and so did my mom, of course. I mostly spent a lot of my childhood in Mexico. Mexico. I spent my childhood a lot in Mexico. So honestly, I wouldn't have changed it for nothing. I loved, you know, growing up over there and being close with my bisabuelos porque gracias a Dios todavía viven mis bisabuelos. It's amazing. Like, I love them. And mi abuela, she's 93.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Ya está mayor tu
Sí.
abuelita. Does it feel like crazy to think about it? Like, oh my gosh, she's about to be 100?
Yes, it's so crazy. Y gracias a Dios todavía la tenemos. And it's, I don't know, like now that I had my baby, like I hope my baby, you know, is able to meet her and everything. I love my nana.
You grew up in Mexico. ¿A qué edad te venías a los Estados Unidos?
No, siempre he vivido en los Estados Unidos.
Okay.
Me la pasaba mucho en México porque mi nana siempre iba a visitar a su mamá.
Como ibas mucho como de visita.
We would always go to Agua Prieta just to go. So, yeah, like my childhood, I had the best childhood. I don't really have a lot of memories. It's so weird that right now I'm trying to like, okay, what did I experience my childhood? But no me puedo acordar.
You grew up with a single mom. Me estabas contando anoche that, you know, your dad a tus 3 años, he went to jail for about 8-9 years. Cuéntanos un poquito de eso. You know, ¿qué es lo que pasó that led him into going to jail? Y en ese tiempo de tu vida, did you understand that he was in jail and that he wasn't able to be with you guys? Or was it like a very confusing time for you at that age?
When my dad got locked up, he was right in front of me, and I remember just crying and telling my mom that I didn't want my dad to leave. At that moment, they hadn't even told him that he was going to get sentenced to prison. Pero yo como de chiquita creo que ya sabía, y yo le dije a mi mamá, Ama, I think my dad's going to jail. And yeah, right after they told him that he was being sentenced, I can't remember a lot, but I remember just, you know, being a little confused of why.
Yeah.
And my mom would always tell me that he went to jail for a parking ticket that he didn't pay. Porque estaba chiquita and she didn't want me to know, you know, that he was doing like bad, like criminal. Not, he wasn't like a criminal, pero pues dinero y pues lavado de dinero and all that. So she didn't want me to know about that. And I don't think I was old enough to understand exactly why he went.
Because you were like 3 at the time. Yeah.
So when I got older, my mom eventually, she told me and my sister, you know, hey, this is why your dad, you know, went to jail.
¿Cómo tomaste tú la noticia en ese entonces? Did it take you by like shock?
Not necessarily, because you know, I kind of, when I was growing up, I was like, why does my mom always tell me my dad went to jail because of a parking ticket? Se me hacía como una simpleza, and I was just like, I don't think that's the reason. But at the same time, I was like, oh, like, mom, like, I want to know. Like, I was like, you know what? She's going to eventually tell me why. Gracias a mis abuelos, I think that's the only reason why we even know who my dad is, because my nana and my tata will do everything in their power to take me and my sister Leilani to go see him every week. Every weekend, we were there visiting my dad for visitation hours.
¿Los papás de él o los papás
de mi mamá?
Okay.
Mm-hmm. We will take him food, because back then, I don't know if we still can, but we'll take him like a whole bunch of food. If he was craving pizza, we'll take him pizza, ceviche, like we'll take a whole bunch of stuff. And I think because of my grandparents, we know who my dad is, honestly. I think if my grandparents would have never taken us to see my dad, I honestly don't think we would have known him.
Yeah.
The way that we do, or, you know, we probably would have known him, but I don't think that we would be looking for him the way that we look for him right now, because we know we have a dad.
Yeah,
you know?
During that time where your mom and him still together, when he got locked up, they kind of separated?
My mom and my dad, what I remember is that they were together for a little bit, and then my mom eventually was just like, I'm sorry, like, you know, it's too many years. I need to start my life, you know, with someone else. And they had a toxic relationship, which I didn't understand when I was little. And I kind of was mad at my mom for moving on. And I was like, no, like, you're supposed to be with my dad. Like, what do you mean that you're going to have another boyfriend? Like, I wanted my mom and my dad to be together. I wanted to live in that perfect household. Donde está la mamá y la papá. Donde está mamá y papá. I was so mad at my mom. I remember for years just like always telling my mom like, no, I don't like your boyfriend. I don't like this new guy. I don't like him. Tuvo 2 novios. Tuvo un muchacho, like he had his own little family, and I hated his daughters. I hated them. I don't know. I always felt like it was a competition with them, and that's why my mom and her last boyfriend actually broke up, because me and his daughters would always fight for the smallest little things. So my mom and him eventually broke up, and then she got with my stepdad. And when she got with my stepdad, I was so mad. I was like, I didn't want to accept it.
During that time, like cuando tu mamá ya estaba rehaciendo su vida y tú ibas y visitabas a tu papá, like would your dad kind of talk to you and be like, no, mija, cuando yo salga, vamos a volver a ser like that perfect family? And maybe that's why you kind of like had that resentment towards your mom, because you're like, my dad is waiting for him to get out y tú aquí rehaciendo tu vida. Was that kind of like what was going on?
Yeah, I think for the most part, I was just mad because I was like, it's not fair that my dad is locked up there and my mom is living her life like as if nothing happened. I couldn't understand understand why my mom had left him, and I was aferrada que tenían que estar juntos. And little me didn't know what a toxic relationship was, and I didn't know what my dad made my mom go through. So obviously, I was mad. But now that I'm older, I understand, and I feel like my mom did the perfect choice of leaving my dad. As bad as that sounds, but no, yo creo que en veces pues es lo mejor.
Es mejor. Tu papá estuvo in jail for 8 years, which entró cuando tú tenías como que 3 años, salió casi a los 11. How did not having your dad present in your life, even though you guys would go visit him, hay una diferencia totalmente diferente el ir a visitarlo a que no esté como presente in very, monumental moments of your life. I'm talking about school, plays, all that stuff. ¿Cómo te afectó el no tenerlo presente ahí durante ese tiempo de tu vida?
Well, for the most part, when my dad was in prison, like he would always tell me like, oh, when I get out, I'm going to take you guys to Disneyland. I'm going to take you guys to the beach. I'm going to do this with you guys. So I was so excited for my dad to get out of jail. And I thought we were going to keep the same bond that we had in jail, because as bad as this sounds, my dad talked to us way more when he was in jail. Like, nos regalaba cositas que hacían en la prisión, and like nos mandaba cartas, drawings, all of that stuff. And I thought he was going to be the same person or even better when he got out. But unfortunately, once he got out, he kind of just went MIA on us. And he got a girlfriend, and a lot of things changed. So I was really, really sad. And I just always wanted to be a daddy's girl. And unfortunately, I never had that. Pero gracias a Dios, I had my tata, which my tata has played the role as my dad. I love my tata, but as much as I have my tata, I still would have wanted to be a daddy's girl. I would have wanted to grow up with my dad. I wanted my dad to be present.
¿Te recuerdas cuando te dieron la noticia? Like, mija, tu papá va a salir este día. ¿Quién te dio la noticia? And what exactly did you feel the moment that you heard your dad was coming out of jail?
I was really excited. We actually went to go pick him up in jail. So we just went, my nana, I remember it was my nana, my tata, my sister, and me, and one of my dad's sisters. He was actually in Phoenix. So we took a drive, and I remember just being so excited. And I'm like, yes, like I'm finally going to have my dad. Like I'm finally going to be able to take him to like my school, and like for my friends to meet him and everything.
Nos cuentas that after coming out of jail, he kind of went MIA on you guys. Cuéntanos un poquito más de eso. Did he start pulling away very gradually, or was it like kind of like a sudden change? Like, oh, salí de la cárcel hoy, el día de mañana tengo una nueva vida.
When my dad got out of jail, my nana actually like offered like, hey, like, come in and live with us, So my dad moved in with us, and he was living there for maybe like 3 months once he got out. And then my dad and my mom actually got in an argument over the new girlfriend that my dad had just met. And when I met her, I saw her, and I told my mom like who she was, her name and everything. And Tucson's very small, so like como que todo se conoce.
Yeah.
When I told my mom automatically, she knew who she was, and she's like, I don't want you guys around her, because she knows that her brother actually took part in my tío's passing. So my mom was just like, I don't feel comfortable with you guys being around her, because we don't know the kind of intentions they have. Maybe she didn't know, or no tiene la culpa, pero my mom just didn't feel comfortable. It was also very recently since my tío passed away.
Your mom's brother?
Yeah, my mom's brother.
Okay.
So my dad got really upset about that. Like he was like, no, like if you can start your life, I'm going to start mine. If you don't want the girls with me, then I'm not going to see them. And he just kind of he got his stuff at my grandparents, and he left.
¿Cómo te afectó eso a ti? Obviamente, your dad, when he was in jail, te contaba this fairy tale story que te iba a llevar aquí, que iba a estar en tu vida. And then, you see that he comes out of jail, and then this happens, and then he kind of stops being in your life. ¿Cómo te afectó eso en ese momento?
When he started backing up away from our lives, it was hard. And I just didn't understand why he had the things he had done. Especially because he had promised us so many things, and I was just looking forward to finally being able to spend those moments that we didn't spend when I was younger, now that I was older. I would try to text him, and no me contestaba, or in veces like he had my number blocked, and he just wouldn't talk to me. Slowly, I was like, you know what, maybe it's for the best if I just kind of stop trying to force a relationship, because I felt like for so many years, me and my sister were the ones looking for him. Yeah. And now it was time for him to actually want to like
look for you
look
guys.
for
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
I was really sad because at the time that he got out of jail, I was actually going into middle school. So I was going to have a 5th grade promotion and everything. And he didn't go to that. He didn't go to my middle school promotion.
¿Lo habías invitado?
Lo había invitado and everything, but no me contestaba. And yeah, we went like maybe almost 3 years without talking to my dad. And then we talked to him again. We talked with him for like 6 months. And then boom, he goes MIA. So it really affects me, honestly. In the way that I'm just like, yo siempre lo ando buscando. And I'm like, I'm tired. I'm so tired of me always being the one looking for him. Like sometimes I'm just like, you know what? I give up. But then at the same time, I don't like holding grudges. I don't like that. So I'm like, you know what? I need to let go. Like sometimes I just need to let go. But sometimes I feel like I need to look for my dad. I want to be daddy's girl. I want to be daddy's girl so bad. I want to be able to, you know, be like, oh yeah, like this is my dad. Like I love my dad. I have this with him, you know. But unfortunately, like él no se presta y pues it makes it harder for me.
Do you feel like it kind of gave you like abandonment issues or kind of like daddy issues in the sense that like even when you were growing up, tú tenías como el miedo that like maybe a friend or like a boyfriend or even like the people close to you were going to do the same thing that he kind of did to you?
Yeah, I think so. I think I've always just been scared of people like encariñándome mucho con la gente and I don't know, or for them to just kind of stop talking to me. So when I would talk to guys, I was like, I like,
hasta
no,
aquí,
hasta
yeah.
aquí, you know, like ya cuando miraba que se estaban cruzando, I was like, no.
Do you feel like también dejaste de como tener relación con su familia? Because me estabas contando that when you guys went to go pick him up, fue también una tía con ustedes. Did you guys kind of lose contact with the family as well?
We unfortunately have never really had a relationship with his family porque ellos también como que se alejaron de nosotros. Entonces, I feel like we never really had an actual relationship with them. And now, pues, ahora mucho menos, you know?
Yeah, de adulta, how's your relationship with him now? Do you feel like you've had a moment where you've been able to like sit down with him y platicar de cómo te ha afectado lo que él ha hecho?
No se ha prestado for us to like sit down and talk. He always brings his kids around or his girlfriend. So it makes it hard for me and my sister to like sit down and tell him like, Dad, like this is how we feel. And we want you to listen to us because I feel like he just kind of like closes the doors, you know? He just wants to kind of like ignore that he doesn't really talk to us and just be like, oh, like we're fine, you know? And no, nothing is fine. And hace unos años when we were actually not talking, I had messaged him and I was like, I wrote him a long paragraph. And I remember just telling him like, Dad, like, you know, this is how I feel. And I miss you and I want to be able to have this bond with you. Pero creo que las palabras no le llegaron porque aún, pues, he can go months without talking to us. He didn't.
¿Te respondió en ese entonces o no?
He did, pero it wasn't the response I wanted. He just kind of was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, life is hard for me and I don't have time to see you girls and stuff like that. But I was like, you can make time to see your daughters.
Si en verdad te importa. You know, nos cuentas de la relación con tu papá, pero quiero platicar de la relación con tu mamá. Obviamente nos cuentas that she was a single mom. ¿Cómo era tu relación con ella? Do you feel like because you didn't have your dad, it almost made you and your mom closer? Or because she was always working, there was also that kind of like distance between you guys when you were young?
Me and my mom have always had a really good bond. She's my literal best friend. Like, I love contándole el chisme. Like, I'm always like, Ama, like this and this and that. She's my best friend. And she's always been the only friend I've always had. So I love my mom. Like, I don't know what I would do without my mom. She's my whole best friend. Like, she's my whole best friend.
She's my world.
She's my world. No, but yeah. And
do you feel like you're mommy's girl?
Yes, definitely. I'm a mommy's girl. Like, yo siempre he sido muy chipilona con mi nana y mi mamá. Like, those are like my best friends. Siempre les he tenido la confianza de decirle lo que siento, lo que está pasando. If I had my first kiss, my mom was the first person to know. When I lost my virginity, my mom was the first person to know.
What did she react to that?
I was 16. And my mom kind of already knew because dice que según me cambió el cuerpo. Que según I got like hips and everything, but I was like, yo me miraba igual.
Yeah.
Siempre me decía, el día que lo hagas, voy a saber. Voy a saber porque vas a caminar diferente, se te van a ver más caderas, se te hace un hoyito cuando caminas, que sabe qué. So, That's why I was
They're all
always,
looking at you like, a ver, expecting
I was
her.
so scared to lose my virginity because of that. Because I knew my mom and my nana were going to know. And I knew that I was going to tell them. Porque como les digo, siempre les he tenido la confianza and to tell them like, hey, this is going on.
What
you know?
made you like finally tell them? Like, were you scared or you were like, chinga su madre, pasó hace 3 meses, no me embaracé, like, I'm gonna tell them?
No,
or like, was there
I
a
was
reason?
so scared to be a teen mom. And I feel like, I mean, I still became a teen mom, but no, like I was so scared to be 16 and pregnant. I'm in high school still, like, you know, obviously like I felt comfortable enough to tell my mom like, hey mom, like this is what I'm doing, you know, and I want to get on birth control. So I think that's why I le tuve la confianza because I was like, mom, I need to get on birth control. And they were crying when I told them. I was like, oh, like I lost my virginity to, well, now my soon-to-be husband, and they were like, oh my God, Delayza, why did you do that? And yeah, my nana was like, ay, qué caliente, Delayza, espérate, tienes 16 años. I'm like, nana, because my nana actually saved herself for marriage.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
but
okay.
she was never like really like hard on us, like, oh, se tienen que esperar hasta que se casen.
Was that kind of like an expectation though, like growing up, like, me gustaría que se esperaran, or was it kind of just like, yo esperé, but I don't care
Yeah,
if you
like
guys
my nana
do?
was always
Okay.
like, try different things, like explore
Like,
your
prueba.
options. Yeah, she's like, prueba de todo. And I was like, and I was always really insecure about that too. So I think that's why I never really like was like, ooh, like I'm gonna go see what I can find. Like, no. So when I did lose my virginity, I told my nana, and she wasn't mad, or they weren't mad, you know. They were like, we knew it was gonna happen, and they were actually glad that les tuve la confianza de, you know, to tell them.
Quiero platicar un poquito más de la relación con tu mamá growing up. Nos cuentas que ella trabajaba mucho y por eso tú vivías con tus abuelitos majority of the time. Growing up, did you understand el por qué tu mamá trabajaba tanto? Would you kind of make her feel bad for kind of not giving you the time that you wish you could have had? Cuéntanos un poquito más de eso.
I think my mom working, honestly, just made me really independent. Porque cuando iba a la escuela, obviously, like, I had, like, homework and stuff. And my nana, my tata didn't know English. So I would have to do my homework by myself because my mom would work really late. Or, like, on the weekends, she would, like, go out with her friends and stuff. So, obviously, like, I feel like it made me really independent. And it never really bothered me that she worked a lot because she always had time for us. She always made time for us no matter what. Like, si andaba cruda, like, she would always take us out, even if she was, like, in a bad mood and everything. So, yeah, like, I think her working a lot just made me really independent. I always, like, I was in kindergarten, I was doing my homework by myself. Like, yo me bañaba sola, yo me planchaba el pelo, yo me hacía todo.
Did you ever see her struggle to, like, maybe pay a bill or just to, like, get through with life where it made you realize, like, oh, shit, like, my mom is barely trying to get by. Like, she's working hard para sacarnos adelante. Did you have a moment in tu niñez donde la vistes batallar to where it literally, like, switched a switch in you?
I think my mom did really good of hiding, like, her emotions with us because I never once saw my mom cry in front of us. Like, while my dad was in prison, I think my mom kept, like, just, you know, a good face. And she was always like, no, voy a salir adelante sola con ustedes. And she did everything in her power to. Y gracias a Dios, she had a really good job. So till this day, I'm always like, mom, like, props to you. Like, she really did that. And creo que my mom is one of the strongest persons I know. And she's the reason why I think I'm the way I am today. And I've always been super independent because of that.
You and your sisters son de tu papá y de tu mamá, right? And then los demás son 5 en total.
¿Cuántos somos? Somos
Ya se me olvidó.
Mi mamá tiene un montón de chamacos. No, but somos 6 en total.
Okay.
Somos 6, and me and my sister Leilani, which I actually make a lot of YouTube videos with her, we have the same dad and same mom. And then my other little brothers, they have a different dad. My mom and my stepdad got together when I was pretty young. I think I was, like, actually in 1st grade. I was always, like, so mad. Like, me daban unos celos. Lo miraba and I was like, oh, me caes gordo. Like, I just hated him. I was like, you're not my dad. Why are you with my mom? Like,
would he ever try to
leave.
discipline you and you would be like, a mí no me vas a decir lo que tengo que hacer porque no eres mi papá?
Yo les hacía unos panchos. We'll go to the store. Y si no me compraba algo, I'll be like, no, you guys are going to buy it. You guys are going to buy it. And I think I was like that because I was always really jealous.
Yeah.
I was really, really jealous.
Did you get jealous when your mom started having kids with him? Like, did you feel like she was kind of like, oh, estaba rehaciendo su vida con él y como que no les ponía tanta atención a ti, tu hermana? Did you kind of felt any type of way when she started having kids?
Yeah, because when she moved out with my stepdad eventually, so when they moved out, like, she asked us, like, do you guys want to move out with me? And I was like, no, like, I want to stay with my nana, my tata. So when we would go visit my mom, I would just be like, Mom, like, why are you not with my dad? Like, you need to be with my dad. Y mi mamá me quería explicar un poquito why she wasn't with my dad, but she saved it, for when I got older. She told me, like, hey, like, this is what your dad made me go through, and this is the reason why we're actually not together. So, con el tiempo yo fui entendiendo, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, like, it's okay.
How's your relationship with your stepdad now? Do you feel like ya se pueden ver, lo aceptas, or is it kind of still rocky because tú a huevo quieres a tu papá paterno?
No, I'm actually glad my mom and my dad are not together because I think that was for the best. So I actually love my stepdad now. Like, ya con el tiempo, he started like kind of warming up to me, and I was like, okay, I actually love my stepdad, and now he's actually like a second father to me. Le cuento todo también. Like, when I had my boyfriends, I'll be like, Papa, like, and it's so weird because I can't call him dad. I don't have...
Do you call him by his name?
Yeah, I call him Cesar. I'm like, ay, Cesar, like,
I think that's a thing though, right? Because even my boyfriend and my cuñada, they call their stepdad Liz. Mm-hmm. Like, they never call him dad, but they're like, we love him as our dad.
Yeah.
But they just don't call him dad.
I mean, my mom started dating him when I was really young. Yeah, I would have been calling him dad by now, But when I present him to, like, my boyfriends, or, ay, son su my boyfriends, no, pero, like, así con I was, like,
ganado.
Sí, cuando le presentaba a mis amigos, my boyfriends, I'll always be like, this is my dad. And como que él se quedaba, pues, yeah, I'm your dad, but why don't you call me dad? And I don't know. I always tell my mom, like, Ma, like, I want to call him dad, pero no me
like, does
sale.
It feel weird?
Me da vergüenza, maybe. Like, maybe I'm just like,
¿Qué piensas? Tú no eres mi hija.
No eres mi hija. Yo no te hice.
Que
no estabas en mis huevos. Like,
yeah, no vienes aquí. Yeah, literally.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh my God, like, I want to call him dad, but for years, I haven't found the courage to be like, Appa.
Do you feel like there was a moment specifically where you kind of started seeing him different? Like where you were kind of like, you know what, maybe I do like him, or I do like him for my mom. ¿Hubo como un momento específico que hizo algo for you, for your siblings, that made you realize, like, you know what, maybe he's not that bad of a person?
I think as I got older, I understood why my mom wasn't with my dad. So I was just happy that my mom was able to find an amazing guy that treated her well, that gave her everything she always wanted. And he slowly started warming up to me. So I was like, you know what? You're not that bad.
Like, I'll give you a chance.
Yeah, I was like, ¿sabes qué? Pues ni modo, like, cosas pasan. And I think it was for the best. And now I actually appreciate that he's in our lives. And estoy muy agradecida that he makes my mom happy. And he gives my little siblings everything. And in a way, like, it heals me because I'm like, I'm glad my siblings are going to grow up with their dad and they're going to be able to experience everything I didn't experience as a little girl.
You're like, if at least I took the loss, they get the win.
Yeah.
Cuéntanos un poquito más how it felt like being the oldest, growing up. ¿Tú te sentías como con más responsabilidad, especialmente con tu hermanita, that you guys lived with your grandparents? Did you almost feel like you had to be like a second mom to her? Did you feel like you had to almost be like a role model para que pues ella tuviera someone to look up to? What was that like for you growing up?
Growing up with my sister, like, I feel like she was always like looking at me in the way, like, si la Delayza hace esto, I want to do it better. I would always try to make sure that I was good in school, that I gave her good advice. If you guys watch my YouTube videos, I actually used to do a lot of girl talks with my sister, and I would always like give her advice. I was like, yo quiero ser tu mejor amiga. Yeah. Quiero que mi hermana me tenga la confianza en igual de decirme, like, Delayza, like, this is going on. So at a very young age, we started making YouTube videos, which that's the reason why my YouTube channel blew up the way it did, because I was always doing girl talks with her. So not only did I give that advice to my sister, but I gave that advice to my audience, and I was the bigger sister to a lot of people. So for my little sister, like, I would always be like, Leilani, like, if you're gonna have your first kiss, girl, like, do this. Like, échate un chicle, like, do this.
No te apeste el
yes,
hocico,
and I was like, if you're gonna do, like, if you're gonna do stuff, dime a mí. That way, like, if the little kid can't buy condoms or whatever, pues yo te los compro.
Yeah,
sí,
yeah.
and then, like, I would always talk about periods because I was like, I wish I had an older sister to tell me all of that.
Do you feel like your grandma les platicaba mucho de esas cosas, especially like for women, like, you know what, you're going to grow up, you're going to start bleeding? Was that like a convo? Was that you kind of, you know, you figured that out on your own and you kind of would have that convo with your sister?
Yes. My nana, oh my God. If you guys would meet my nana, she's crazy. Let's just say that. Like, it's, you know, she speaks her mind. Y mi nana no tiene vergüenza. She's going to tell you, like, this and this and that. Like, dime la verdad, you know? So, growing up, my nana has always told us, like, al chile, así, pues, you know, she's always told us, van a tener relaciones y se tienen que cuidar. Si van a andar de putitas, you know, va a haber consecuencias, you know? So, there's a lot of things. Growing up, my nana and my mom, like I said, they've always been super open to us. So, como que nosotros, yeah, like, we're like... I think the only way that you can say that like, I kind of like had to step in and raise my sister was being there for her and giving her advice. Other than that, gracias a mis abuelos, like we've always had everything. They done like the cooking, getting us ready for school, dropping us off and everything. Now that I'm older, like I try to step in a little bit now to my younger siblings. Pero we've always just been really like united and like we've always just had amazing bonds.
How do you think growing up, you know, with a single mother te afectó en la manera que eres el día de hoy? You know, did that have any effect in the way you work, in the way you go about it in your relationship, or just in general? Do you feel like, you know, growing up with a single mom te hizo de una forma?
Sí, I think my mom being a single mom actually really inspired me to just be independent in a way, like to never rely on a guy. Just because you never know. You just never know what can happen. So, mi mamá me enseñó mucho. And I think one of the biggest lessons my mom gave me of her being a single mom was de siempre salir adelante no matter what. And just keep trying and keep pushing no matter how hard things get. And just always be independent. I think that's why I never really depend on a guy. I don't know, because I have like my dad. Like I never really depended on him. So, I've always just liked being independent. Myself.
You know, ya platicamos de tu niñez con la relación de tus papás, you know, being an older sister, pero yo quiero saber cómo te fue en la escuela. Platícanos un poquito de cómo eras tú en la escuela. Were you the popular girl, the shy girl, the outcast, la peleonera? Cuéntanos un poquito de tu experiencia en la escuela.
Well, actually, I was not peleonera. Surprisingly, porque de chiquita siempre andaba peleando.
Okay.
Porque, okay, my nana would always be like, no te dejes. If they tell you something, stick up for yourself. If they hit you, hit them back. If they're making fun of you, make fun of them back. Yeah. So I don't want to say that I was like a really nice girl in school. Like in elementary, like I was kind of really mean. Because mi nana siempre me decía, diles cosas para atrás, si apestan, diles que apestan. And I was like, okay, you know.
Diles que se bañen.
Yes, so my nana like would always tell me that. So I think like growing up, I wasn't really the nicest, pero pues con el tiempo, yeah, like, you know, like, girl, you need to calm down. It was actually really hard in middle school because when I started doing YouTube, everyone would make fun of me. I would walk down the halls and they'll be like, they will mimic my intro. They'll be like, hi guys, my name is Delayza. And I would just be like, you know what, whatever.
Would that make you feel some type of way though? Like, did that ever affect you?
It did in a way because I felt like, I was like, am I doing the right thing? Like, putting my life out there on social media, because there's teachers and they will be like, oh my God, like your life is gonna go so bad because you're doing social media. You're gonna have stalkers, people are gonna be in your business. And I would always be like, why are they telling me this? Like, I think it was crazy for people to know that you're kind of making a living off social media. So in school, it was always hard for me to make friends because in a way, I feel like a lot of people don't like me because I do social media. They're like, ay, es bien mamona, or like, se cree porque tiene followers. But I'm like, no, girl, like, I have never seen numbers as something like, oh, like, you know, I'm going to brag about it. Growing up and having to do social media and going to school has been hard. Just because I would get hate. There's people making hate pages about me in middle school. And they will like edit me and they'll be like, ay, la peluda, because I have like really hairy arms. And they always made fun of me about that.
Was that like an insecurity for you growing up?
Yes. It was. I was so insecure that like after my quinceañera, I shaved off my arms. And my nana got so mad at me because she's like, es algo normal.
Yeah.
No
Todos
te debes,
tienen pelos, yeah.
She's like, no te debes hacer eso. And I've always been super peluda. Like, I had, like, a mustache. Like, I had a unibrow and everything. And mi nana siempre me decía, embrace it. Like, it's normal, you know? But it's because mi nana viene de rancho, so como que she was like, es bonito que tengas pelos en los brazos, que te salga poquito bigotito. She would let me shave it off, but, you know, doing social media and having to deal with that hate, I wouldn't necessarily get hate on social media, but I felt like I got more hate in my town for what I did.
Would that ever kind of like discourage you, where you would be like, oh my God, I've been getting made fun of, to the point where I'm like, maybe I don't want to do YouTube? Or do you feel like that would kind of fuel you at the time?
At the time, I feel like it would motivate me. I'll be like, ¿sabes qué? Les voy a callar la boca. Les voy a callar la boca. Like, I'm going to do what I like doing. And I'm glad I kept doing what I'm doing now, because now a lot of the girls that used to make fun of me are now like all of a sudden wanting to do TikTok and YouTube. Yeah. And I'm like, you guys used to make fun of me, and now you guys are doing what you guys made fun of, you know?
Did you ever get a moment where maybe the hate turned into like, hey, quiero ser tu amiga, estoy mirando que eres bien famosa? And, you know, YouTube, did it ever get to that moment where like people started wanting to be your friends because they started seeing kind of like the clout you were getting online?
It was so weird, but it was actually guys. Guys would always be like, ay, vamos a salir, vamos a hacer esto. Like, let's do a vlog, let's do a video. And I always be like, why? Like, that's so weird. The girls were always just more of like, que me tiraban más hate. There's a girl in my town que siempre que cuando me miraba, me gritaba, ay, viene la youtubera. Cuídense porque no vaya a ser que va a grabar algo. And I will be like, girl, I'm not going to record you.
You're like, no, si te pongo en mi video, me bajan las vistas.
Yes. No, literally.
How would you react? Like, would you ever kind of like stand up to them, or you would just kind of keep on walking?
That's my problem, que yo siempre nunca me ha dejado. Like, I always say what I'm thinking. And I think that has gotten me in a lot of trouble porque no me quedo callada. Una vez, I was with my best friend, Daphne, and we were like at this... Back then, we would always hang out at a car wash. I know. Okay. We would hang out at a car wash. Se juntaban todos.
¿Lavaban carros o qué?
No.
I'm like, no, we were just... That was just like the kick
literally,
that was
spot. Like, ahí iban todos, like, everyone who had a truck. And I had just gotten my truck. So this is when a lot of people from my town started, like talking shit. Because they're like, oh, damn, she bought her truck. And I was 16 when I bought my first car.
Off of YouTube?
Yes, off of YouTube. So I bought a 2018 Silverado, and it was like a single cab truck. And everyone was like, damn, you know, like, muchos de los hombres. Sorry if my boyfriend is watching this. No, he already knows. I had my putita days.
You're like, él me salvó de esa era.
Él también. No se haga, mijito, eh? No, but I would hang out with guys. I've always...
Like gotten along better with guys? Okay,
porque las mujeres siempre me han tirado mucho hate. So I was like, me la llevo mejor con los hombres. So we would hang out at this car wash. And this girl, like I said earlier, she would always be like, ay, que ahí viene la youtubera. But behind my back, she would talk all this shit. Out of nowhere, she'd be like, hola, Delayza, ¿cómo estás? Like, ¿cómo has estado? We used to go to high school together. But after COVID, she kind of just like started getting hate to me. There was this one time we're at the wash and she was like, ay, que ahí viene la youtubera, cuídense porque no nos va a grabar. And I was like, no te quiero quemar porque te juntas con hombres casados, girl. Like, y se lo dije.
Ingas, what did she say?
Se quedó callada, and like her cousin or something, I guess she got mad, and she's like, a ver, putita, ven pa' acá. And I was like, putita yo, putita tu prima, que se mete con hombres casados. Eso se le hace algo bonito. Like, and we're 16.
You're like, ¿quieres que grabe eso?
I was like, we were 16, girl. Like, what were you doing metiéndote con hombres casados?
And they were older? Well, yeah, I'm
they were my
assuming
age. They were my age.
No, los hombres casados.
Oh, no, los hombres.
Like, yeah, they were older. I'm like, damn.
No, yeah, los hombres casados,
I'm like, what's the legal age to get married in Arizona?
No, yeah, they were like, older. Me imagino, pues mayor, no?
Yeah,
they had families and everything. And this girl still flex about it, like on her social media, like, oh, like, yo le bajo los, ¿cómo se dice? Yo le bajo los maridos.
La baja maridos.
Ajá,
hasta apodo se pone ella mismo.
Okay.
Quiero platicar un poquito más de you being in school. Me estabas contando that you graduated being a junior. Cuéntanos un poquito de eso. ¿Cómo pasó eso? You know, what was that process like to graduate a whole year early? Did you have to do like more work than like the other kids? ¿Y cómo se sintió el graduarte sin tu clase?
We went back to school after COVID. Everything had changed. Now we were wearing masks. People had started, you know, dating people that we never imagined. Our friend group just, you know, split up after COVID. When I went back to school, I didn't really find like my high school experience. So I was like, you know what? Can I graduate early? Can I get this over with? Can I just, you know, start my life? Because at the time I was really doing social media. I was like, ¿sabes qué? Like, I'm going to look into graduating early. So I started looking into it, and it was possible, but it was going to be very hard. They gave me up to 20 classes, and I was going to summer school. I had done weekend academy. Like, I would go to school Fridays and Saturdays just to be able to graduate as a junior. So it was really hard, pero I knew in the back of my head it's something I wanted, and I was like, I have to do it. Like, lo voy a hacer porque lo voy a hacer. It did suck not graduating with my class, but at the same time, I knew that in 20 years, I was not even going to remember half of my class.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I don't care. As long as I get my, high school diploma and I know that I did that, I'm okay with it. I had just gotten my truck, so I was like living life, and I was just like, you know what, like at that moment too, like I was hanging out with my cousins from Mexico, so I was like, I know, like yo todos los fines de semana me la quería llevar allá. So I was like, you know what, the sooner that I graduate high school, the more I'm able to like live my life. And now that I look back to it, I'm like, we were such in a rush to grow up. Like, if I could go back, I would go back to high school and I would do it all over again. COVID really messed it up for us, though. It really did, because we had like that weird gap, that we didn't go to school. Everything was online. So I wish I could go back and get the full high school experience, but things just were really different after COVID. So I feel like either way, I wouldn't have gotten it if I would have waited to graduate until my senior year.
Después de, high school, you go into college. Saliste del colegio with your medical assistant, certificate. Cuéntanos un poquito más de eso. What sparked your interest in the medical field? Was college always the plan? And what exactly was, your journey like in school? Was it hard? Did you enjoy it? Was there ever a moment where you're like, you know what? La escuela no es para mí. I'm going to stop en este momento. Cuéntanos un poquito más de eso.
When I was in high school, I was like, ew, no, I'm not going to college. Like, apenas pude con la high school, I do not want to go to college. I was like, college is a scam. You need to pay all these loans for you to have a good career. I was like, no, I don't want that. Pero I always like having a second option.
Okay.
So when I was doing social media, I was like, wait, no. What if someday, somehow this stops working for me? What if it's something I don't want to do long run?
Yeah.
Like, what if I'm like 30 and I'm like, ya no lo quiero hacer.
Ya me aburrí.
Yeah. Like, I've been doing it for years. So I was like, you know what? I need a plan B. So that's when I started looking into college, and I don't know, like something just caught my attention of being a medical assistant. I just always loved working with people and helping people. So when I saw that program was only 9 months, I was like, you know what? 9 meses, ahorita lo hago de volada.
Did you ever have like interest in going into like nursing?
I actually was going to go into nursing. And the day that I was going to go take my nursing test to get into the school, I backed out. Because when I was studying for the test, I was like, what am I reading? What is this? Because as someone who's never been interested in going to college or being in the medical field since desde chiquita, I was like, what am I reading?
Yeah.
Like, what does ML mean? What is that? Like, I'm like, what's a syringe? What is this? So I was like, you know what? Let me take a step back.
Yeah.
Let me try to see if I like the medical field. So that's why I went into medical assisting, because I was like, if I like it, then I can just move up to nursing. And now that I became a medical assistant, I'm like, you know what? I like it here. I'm going to stay here. Because now that I think of being a nurse, I'm like, I wouldn't be able to do with the schedule, not like having to work Christmas holidays, and stuff like that. And I love spending time with my family, so I don't think that's a good career for me at the moment. Now, especially because I have a baby, I feel like I wouldn't be able to go into nursing. As much as I would love it, I don't think it's for me. I think medical assisting is just a perfect job just because it's really flexible. It gives me time to just work Monday through Friday and not have to worry about working on holidays and all these crazy night shifts and stuff like that.
Ahorita trabajas en cardiology. Cuéntanos un poquito de eso. Was that always like the goal? How was your job hunting experience? Was it hard? Did you think like, no, yo en cuanto salga de la escuela, rápidamente me voy a agarrar un pinche trabajo? What was that whole process like? Y ahora ya que estás trabajando in that field, do you enjoy it? Is it something that you're like, you know what, maybe? Because I feel like in the medical field, there's always like yes and no's. A lot of people love it, and a lot of people like get into it and they're like, no, esto no es para mí. What's been your experience like?
As soon as I graduated, I thought I was going to be able to find a job like this. Girl, it was so hard. Because everywhere on like my Indeed, I would like be like, okay, I'm going to apply to this job. I'm going to apply to this. And I was like, oh, you need like 2 years of experience. And I was like, what? Like, I just graduated college. Like, how am I supposed to find a job if no one's hiring a newly grad student.
Yeah.
So it was really hard. And cardiology was not even something I was looking into working in. I was looking into pediatrics, like working with babies. I've always loved working with people, but I was like, you know what? I want to work with kids.
Like specializing kids.
Yes, I want to specialize in babies or something. Because when I was going into college, when I was thinking of being a nurse, I was like, I want to work in labor and delivery. That was my dream, like, job. A labor and delivery nurse. When I became a medical assistant, I saw that there is an option to be a pediatric medical assistant, and I was like, "Ooh, I can work in
You're
that."
like, perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pero todos los trabajos that I would look into and that were my dream jobs required so much experience. So I just kind of went into cardiology, and honestly, I loved it. I love working with los viejitos. Like, I just love. They're so sweet.
What exactly do you guys do? Like, what's like a typical day for you when you go in, clock in? What do you usually do?
At my job, I would print out all the lists of patients that we're seeing for the day. We'll see like up to 70 patients a day. And I would do EKGs, which is like para el corazón, para verle, you know, everything's, the rhythm is normal and stuff.
Es cuando te ponen todas las cositas, right? I've gotten one of those done for weight loss surgery. Cuando me operé, tenía que ir a hacerme eso, and it's like...
Yeah, it's a whole bunch of wires and everything, stickers.
Yo ni sé qué chingados pa' qué son, pero yo ahí me acosté and I was like, chinga su madre, hágame lo que tengan que hacerme.
Yeah, so that's what I actually do.
Okay.
I do EKGs, and I would have to print out the patient's chart and then just kind of review it with my doctor and tell him, hey, like, this is your patient today. This is the last time he came. And then I would print out, like, you know, any echoes or EKGs, stress tests, all of that they would get done before.
Do you like it? Like, do you feel comfortable there, or do you want to like eventually do the labor and delivery, todo eso, or is that like, no, es mucho trabajo para eso?
Well, I don't want to say that I quit, but I put in my 2 weeks since I had my baby because I felt like I wasn't going to be able to work again. I wasn't going to be able to leave my baby. So I'm actually not working no more. But in the moment when I was working, I loved it. And it was an amazing experience that I had. And I hope that one day I'm able to go back to work because I actually really liked it. And maybe, just maybe, I'll go into nursing.
Was that like a hard decision to take though? ¿Sabes qué? I'm going to put in my 2 weeks notice. What did like the doctor say? Like, did they tell you, no te vayas, we'll work with your schedule? What was that like when you finally put in the notice?
My doctor actually had left the hospital that I was working at as well. And he was like telling me like, hey, come work at this hospital that I'm going to be working at. And I was like, it's so hard. Like, I don't have anyone to take care of my baby. Mentally, physically, I don't think I'm able to leave her. Like, right now that I'm over here, I'm like, my baby, like, I miss her. Like, I felt like crying when I left her. Like, I felt like I'm leaving her. I wasn't prepared to go back to work. And I was like, you know what? I think this is a good, you know, it's the best decision at the moment. And it did hurt. I felt like I worked so hard for it. And for me to just be like, you know what? This is it.
You know, platicamos un poquito de las redes sociales, nos cuentas de que tú empezaste bien chamaquilla, right? You started blowing up a los 16 años. You were already making money enough to, like, you know, buy yourself your dream truck. Hace poco, I want to say during the time you started working, you took like a big break from social media, ¿verdad? Porque yo siento como que te miré y luego hubo un tiempo donde te dejé mirar y luego regresas y casi it's like, whoa, tu vida cambió completamente. Was there a reason why you took a break, or do you feel like you were just like overwhelmed with like so much work? Obviamente tu vida ya había como cambiado muchísimo, ya estabas trabajando mucho. Was there a reason why you took that break recently?
I actually graduated in November of 2023. And I started working in the medical field in December of 2023. And around that time, I feel like I was posting a little bit on YouTube, but I was just kind of slowing it down just because I didn't know exactly what kind of content I wanted to be putting out on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like in a weird little space where I didn't know exactly who I was or what I wanted to do or what kind of content I wanted to do. So I did take a little break, and surprisingly, I got pregnant a couple months later. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going MIA. And I would try to hide it that I was pregnant. Like, I would post that, ando tomando. Like, I would post pictures of, like, months ago. Like, me mira bien, like, flaquita and everything. Girl, I had a big belly by then.
Why didn't you want to, like, show it out, like, to the public? Yeah, porque dices que esperas como casi 8 meses, ¿verdad?
Yeah, I waited. I literally announced that I was pregnant, I think...
She's like, when I gave birth.
I think 9 days before I gave birth. Yeah. When I got pregnant, I was just like, you know what? I don't know. Is this something I want to put out on social media right away? I was really scared because I was just like, this is my first time being pregnant. I didn't know how my body was going to handle it. I didn't know, you know, a lot of things could happen. And I was just really scared. And las malas vibras and all that. So I was like, you know what? I just need to take time for myself. I need to make sure I'm okay, that this baby is okay, and just focus on my pregnancy, not focus on like, because mucha gente, they could be really rude when someone gets pregnant on social media. I knew that people were going to be like, oh my God, you're pregnant and you're 19. You just moved in with your boyfriend and you got pregnant.
Like, iban a juzgarte.
Sí, me iban a juzgar. Y no iban a saber nada. Like, they don't know exactly how it led up. Like, I literally got pregnant with birth control, girl. I kind of stopped posting, and I started posting videos from before. From like December, I was posting them in March, and I was already pregnant.
Shit, okay.
So I had a lot of pre-filmed videos, so a lot of people were not really suspecting that I was pregnant. They were just, de la nada, sí me llegaban comentarios, and they're like, are you pregnant? Why are you MIA? Like, where are you? And I'm like, si supieras, aquí ando tomando, and we all pregnant.
Hablamos un poquito de tu novio. Yo quiero saber todo de esa historia de amor. Nos cuentas que fue el mismo that you lost your virginity with. Cuéntanos cómo empezó todo eso. When did you guys meet? Who made the first move? And how did he ask you to be his girlfriend?
I was 16 at the time when I met him. And we actually met in a ruta. Like, you know, with the razors and everything. We actually met in the middle of nowhere, basically. And los carritos and everything. We were having a good time. I think it was the 3rd of July. So, no, the 4th of July when we met. And he actually had a girlfriend. And pues at the moment when I had seen him, like he was so like attractive, like for me. I got, ¿cómo se dice?
Like you got starstruck.
Yeah.
You're like, yo, I want that one.
I was like, I want him. Or can I buy him on Amazon? Because I've always liked guys que like les gusta bailar, que sean ambientados. You know, no me gusta un niño amargado que nomás like, ay, no. Like,
yeah, you want to have fun with your partner. Yeah.
And especially because that's how I am. Like, me encanta bailar. Like, soy bien desmadrosa, you know. I don't really show that side of me, but soy bien desmadrosa. So with my boyfriend, when I met him, like I saw him and he was like doing donuts. And I was like, ooh, can I get on? You know, he was dancing, le daba pa abajo, you know, he was like, I was like, damn, who is this guy? Where has he been?
Y en ese entonces también estaba la novia ahí con él.
No estaba.
Okay.
Por
So
eso,
you were like, ooh,
that's why I was like, ooh, anda soltero. Where's your no girlfriend?
Perfect.
Yes.
Aquí estoy.
And then he had a white truck. So I was like, ooh, he has a truck. Like, I don't know. When I was 16,
Te encantaban las trocas.
Yes, I fell in love with trucks and I fell in love with him. I've always loved trucks. My dad is the reason why I've always been into trucks. When I saw that he had a truck and I was like, ooh, your truck would look nice with my truck next to mine. When I met him, he actually had a girlfriend, which I didn't know because we were, like I said, we were in the middle of nowhere. Our phones weren't working, and he actually was a DJ. He had the music, and I went up to him and I was like, ¿Quién es de la música? And he's like, oh, yo. And I was like, a ver tu teléfono. And I got his phone. Well, he basically gave it to me. He gave me his phone, and he didn't have like a girl or anything in his lock screen. He had like un monito, and I was like, oh, pues si está soltero. I saw no signs of him having a girlfriend, okay? And to be fair, it's because him and his ex-girlfriend were already like in really bad terms.
Okay, ya estaban como
they were already like breaking up.
Yeah.
So esa era la noche donde él se fue, you know, hizo sus cosas. I had his phone and actually put my name on Apple Music, and I think that's how he eventually found me on social media. After that little ruta that we had there, we got back into my truck, me and my best friend, and my best friend's like, ¿por qué le estabas echando tanto ojo al muchacho de la troca blanca? And I was like, who is he? I've never seen him.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, you don't know him? You guys are in the same truck club. We were in a truck club together. Se llama TST. So we had like these big banners on top of our trucks. So he had it. So I was like, wait, I've never seen him. So I tell my best friend, I'm like, who is he? Like, I want to know about him. And she's like, oh, he does like decals y que sabe que. And I was like, let me look him up on Facebook. I had Facebook back then. So we look him up. And the first thing I see is like, he has a girlfriend. And I was like, no, like, fuck. I was like, okay.
Pero él nunca en ese momento dijo que tenía novia.
No, and pues nunca, like, he wasn't being, being flirty or anything like that.
You guys were just like, what's the music?
I was just like, I was the one who was like, ooh, who is he, you know? So when I got home, I was just like, oh, well, pues ni modo. And I just kind of put it in the back of my head. And then a couple weeks later, he actually adds me on Snapchat. And I was like, wait, I remember seeing this name, Ramiro. And I was like, wait, that sounds familiar. So I text my best friend. I'm like, who is he? Like, is this the same guy that was at the ruta? And she's like, yeah, that's him. And I was like, wait, I thought he had a girlfriend. So then I add him back and I'm like, maybe they broke up. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna add him.
You're
So
like, I hope they broke up.
I was like praying. I was like, ojalá que sí. So then I was actually in Quino, by Aquino in Sonora, and I was in the beach, and I had posted these pictures. They're actually on my Instagram too. I was wearing like a black little bikini, toda sexy, you know, and I had posted them on my Snapchat, and he swiped up and he put heart eyes. Y yo de volada, I was like, gracias, guapo. I was like, ew.
Yes.
He always makes fun of me for that. He's like, why did you reply that way? And I was like, it's because like, yo también te quería tirar.
Yeah.
I didn't know
You
how.
wanted to make it known
Yes,
que te
like,
gustaba.
I was like, I wanted for you to know that I found you attractive.
Yeah, so he can act up because a veces los pinches muchachitos son bien like tímidos que ay, like cómo le echo a los perros. No, mi amor, yo te voy a enseñar cómo.
See, so then and then he sent me that and I replied and we kind of started talking. He was like, oh, like, ¿cómo estás? Like, ¿cómo has estado? Like, me sacó plática and I was like, wait. I was like, wait, before anything, like, don't you have a girlfriend? And he's like, no, we actually broke up like before you know, we saw each other at the ruta. Like, we were already having problems. Like, it was a really toxic relationship for him. So he was already kind of mentally leaving the relationship. So when they actually broke up, he was already over it. They had been breaking up for like months, pero pues nunca se había hecho like officially. So yeah, when he messaged me and then he told me he didn't have a girlfriend, I was like, okay, I think this is my moment.
How did he ask you out?
When he asked me out, he actually asked me out at my mom's house. He did like a sign que decía, ¿Quieres ser mi novia?
Aww.
With like globos, and then it was a little trail of roses with a big heart and everything. And there was lights and everything. It was so cute. And when he asked me out, there was a lot of people that were really mad about it.
¿Por qué?
Well, one of his family members just didn't like me. Just because of my past relationship. Especially one of his family members actually started like saying a whole bunch of stuff and saying that I was like a really bad person just because of my past. And they kind of started bringing the ex in. Like, they were forcing the ex to just stay in their lives. And the ex, you know, yo no creía en esto, pero yo creía que siempre puede haber un bien como hay un mal.
Yeah.
And she started doing witchcraft on my boyfriend.
No way.
And it was really early on into our relationship, and it was really, really scary. I never really believed in it. My family didn't really grow up like believing in a lot of that.
¿Qué es lo que hacía?
She was trying for him to like que no se le parara. Yeah. She was like doing things so we wouldn't have sex and like, you know, for us to break up basically.
Yeah.
For us to always argue. Mm-hmm. When we noticed, it was because we were always like kind of like arguing over the smallest things. And me and my boyfriend have never really argued.
Yeah.
Siempre nos hemos llevado como mejores amigos. He's honestly one of the first like that I've never argued with. Like, we never ever argue. We've always had really good communication. So when this started going on, I started noticing that he was being a little different. We talked to his mom, and his mom like, you know, took him with someone, and she's like, maybe ocupas una limpia, you know? And that lady told him, like, they're doing witchcraft. And it was his ex. The lady actually told him, like, hey, like, this is how she looks. This is, you know, más o menos le dio, like, a description of the person, and automatically he's like, yeah, it's her. He had actually asked for me. He was like, hey, like, is she okay? Like, is she doing some type of,
witchcraft to her? Yeah.
And they're like, no, like, she actually didn't have enough money to do it to her, so she didn't do it to me because she didn't have enough money.
Were you scared in that moment? Because I'm sure, obviamente, el no creer y luego que digan, esto está pasando, you know, there's someone doing witchcraft. Did that scare you at that moment?
At the moment, it did, because I was like, it's so crazy how evil someone could be just because they can't get over their ex. Like, girl, like, you were the toxic one. You're the one who lay hands on him, and you still want to, like, do all of this? Like, that is not okay. And yo nunca he sido de esas personas de like, I hate the ex-girlfriend, you know? Yo me la quería llevar en paz, and she was always doing things. One time, we were at a concert, and she literally threw a drink at us. She threw a drink, and my boyfriend's, like, camisola was all wet.
Yeah.
And we were like, what the heck? There's been occasions where we're in the same place, she walks by, and she pushes my boyfriend. And it's kind of like, girl,
like, what the, like, ya supéralo,
sí. When we started talking, she would call him and be like, this and this about, like, Delayza, like, I know this about her, I know that about her, like, you don't deserve her, like, this and this and that. And she was always trying to just stay in the family, like, a huevo se quería quedar en la familia, and she got her way.
How?
Let's just
Con
say
el
that.
Primo.
No, casi le
casi.
quería bajar un primo, eh. No, but one of my boyfriend's tías actually still talks to her. Su prima hermana se hizo mejor amiga con ella. And she actually stopped talking to my boyfriend. Like, they don't talk to my boyfriend. No lo saludan. A mí nunca me saludan. A mí no me importa. I'm like, ay, no me saluden mejor. You know, I don't want those type of vibes.
Yeah.
It honestly does hurt me a little bit because I see that my boyfriend, he used to be close to those primas hermanas. And for them just to, like, switch up on him and stop talking to him just because of his ex is crazy.
Was there ever like a moment during that time where you're like, you know what, this is too much for me. Maybe I don't want to be in a relationship. Was there ever a moment where you wanted to cut things off?
Yes. And it hurts so much to say that because, like, I was like, he's such an amazing guy. But I was like, this is hard. Like, it was hard having to deal with that crazy ex and trying to, like, be with him.
Yeah.
Because I felt like at any moment she could just come in and know everything. And that's what sucks. Right now we are together and I feel like she knows everything that's going on because she's still some way in the family.
Connected,
you know? So it does suck porque está enterada de todo. It is hard and there's many times where I was like, I can't do this. I can't be with a person that has an ex such like
so toxic
like this. Y luego pues la tía no es tía porque like, it's su tía porque, you know, it's the mom's sister. No, it's because she's married with his tío.
Oh, okay. So she's like, she got added into the
she
family.
got added into it.
Okay.
So I think I will never understand why they have to be the way they are with me and my boyfriend and they can't respect our relationship. For, you know, for the past 4 years that I've been with him, they've been throwing indirectas. They dog me so bad at family parties. Me miran de pies a cabeza. Like,
do you feel ever like uncomfortable?
At the beginning, I did feel very uncomfortable because I was 16. Mind you, his tías, ya está mayor,
vieja,
you know?
la señora,
I was 16 and his prima hermana también. She's already like 23, 24.
Yeah.
And she was like over here making me tiraba en directas and me hacía unas caras. And I was like, why? Like, I'm 16. Like, you know, I was really young at the moment. So it did, like, in a way, it made me feel very uncomfortable. Pero como se fue yendo el tiempo, I was like, you know what? If they're going to do faces, I'm going to do it back.
Yeah.
Si no me saludan, no me saluden. Yo tampoco no las voy a saludar. And now that I get to places, like my suegra always tells me, like, las tienes que saludar. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to say hi to them. Why?
Pero te llevas bien con tu suegra.
Unfortunately, at the beginning, we had a really, really good bond. But now that I had my baby, things went downhill. Porque no saludo a la tía y las primas de él.
Does your boyfriend ever tell you, like, it's okay, babe, I don't want you to, like, does he have your back?
He doesn't even say hi to them. He doesn't even say hi to them because for the same reason, they made him go through so much stuff. Yeah. And he's like, I'm tired of it. Yo no tengo que saludar a las personas que me hacen pasar por esas cosas. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we understand things, how they are. Nos están tirando en directas. I literally have videos where, like, we're dancing and I have the video. And nos tiran unas miradas. And they, like, point at us and laugh for just dancing. Literally.
I'm sure that's fucking uncomfortable. I'd be like, bitch, vente pa' acá.
No, literally. There's been so many times where I want to say stuff, pero por el respeto, I don't.
Yeah. You're like, más vale que haga una loca que dos. Quiero platicar un poquito más. You know, you guys start dating y a los 18 años, you guys move in together. Cuéntanos un poquito de eso. How did that come to be? Was that like a convo you guys would constantly have, you know, cuando se juntaban? Cuando le dices a tu mamá y, you know, a tus abuelitos, ¿cómo reaccionaron el saber que te querías a mover con tu novio en ese entonces, being so young?
So when we moved out, I was 18. And prior to moving out with him, we already were spending the night. Like every weekend, él se venía a quedar a dormir en mi casa, or I would go to his house and stuff like that. And it was really, really hard for me to, like, actually ask my grandparents, like, oh, like, se puede quedar mi novio?
Yeah.
But they already knew what we were doing, so they were kind of like, okay, as long as you are being respectful, respect the house and stuff. And the first few, like, weeks, we slept with the door open and everything. Like, we're like, no, like, we can't mess this up. So, yeah, we were actually spending the night every other weekend. And then, I don't know, we were, like, spending the night every single day. And it became a routine that we would switch off. Like, he would come and spend the night at my house, and then I would go to his house. Yeah, see? And at one point, he's like, you know what? I think we should just move in together.
Yeah.
We're basically living together. Yeah, we're basically living together because we're spending the night so much. So why not just move in together? So we actually moved into one of his family's houses. It was just me and him. We moved in together, and my grandparents, I kind of already suspected it.
Yeah.
My grandparents como que ya sabían because they're like, ay, estos siempre se quieren quedar juntos, you know? And it became to the point where we kind of had, like, attachment issues. Like, I couldn't leave him because I would get so sad. Like, he was my comfort.
How did you feel moving in, you know, so early with him? Did you ever had people or even yourself be like, oh, damn, we're super young? Y te lo cuento porque yo también tuve como una situación super similar with you. Yo y mi novio, we've been living together. We're 9 years together. We've been living literally for 8.5 of those years. We moved in 2 months after graduating high school. We were always sleeping over at each other's houses. We were neighbors. So se nos hacía muy fácil to the point where he was like, you know what? Just muévete. Y me moví. But there was a lot of people that were like, you guys are super young. Like, maybe you guys should wait. You guys are barely dating. Did you have people kind of comment on that? Like, están muy jóvenes para ya tomar ese nuevo paso en sus vidas?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people were like, you guys are too young for that. Like, you guys don't know what you guys are getting yourself into. And we were dating for 3 years, and they're like, but once you start living with someone, things change a lot. And I think that's one of the things I was so scared about. I was like, ay, ojalá que no sea cierto eso, you know? And they're like, yeah, like, once you move in, like, te va a dar coraje que deje los calcetines en el suelo, que he doesn't, like, clean the toilet, all his shit stains, and, like, little things like that piss you off. So when I moved in with him, I was like, oh, my God, like, what am I getting myself into? Like, I was really, really scared. I was scared to go back to my grandparents' house and be like, oh, it didn't work out. I'm back. Yeah. Gladly, everything went good.
What do you feel like was the hardest part? Porque como dices tú, you know, it is an adjustment that has to be made porque you were raised a certain way, he was raised a certain way. When you put two people that are raised differently en una casa, va a haber like bumping heads, which is so normal, you know what I mean? Like you said, like the little clothes, there's like little things that you didn't think of before. You're like, ahora sí me emputan. Like, get it together. What do you think were like the hardest things that you guys had to adjust to, you know, when you guys freshly moved in?
When we moved in, we actually sat down and we were like, hey, these are some house rules that we're going to have. These are rules that we're going to have as a couple. That way we didn't have those type of arguments.
Yeah.
That way it didn't have to come to the point where we would argue about like the littlest things. He knew that I had like freaking OCD. Like, yo quiero que todo esté perfecto en la casa. Quiero que huela bonito. I clean with like literally cloro and everything because I'm like I'm a clean freak. So when I moved in with him, I was like, that's how I am. And he knew that's how I was.
Was he like a clean freak? Because I feel like guys are less... I kind of got
him into being a clean freak. So when we moved in, I was like, mira, así van a ser las cosas. And he kind of started adjusting to the way that I was. I never really struggled with him having to like, hey, ve, levanta tus calcetines. Out of nowhere, he does do little things that piss me off. But I just say it once, and he knows by the look of my face, I'm like...
Ya sabes lo que es. Have you ever tried sending money to someone y de repente there's a processing delay with no explanation? With Cash App, ya no te tiene que pasar eso. Cash App is a safe, easy, and fast way to send, receive, and transfer money to family and friends. It is so easy to get started. All you gotta do is enter your phone or email and no bank account is needed. With Cash App, there's no waiting around for days for your money to be available because it's your money and you shouldn't have to wait. I love using Cash App because it's fast, safe, and it makes life way less stressful. Whenever I go out to eat with a big group of friends, you guys, ustedes saben que a veces splitting the check becomes really annoying, especially for the waiters. So what I usually do is I'll go ahead and pay the whole check, and then I'll make all my friends cash at me their part. Y por eso me encanta, amigas, porque es súper rápido y fácil. And for a limited time only, new Cash App users can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash. For reals, there's no catch. Just download Cash App and sign up. Use our exclusive referral code Alannized in your profile. Send $5 to a friend within 14 days and you'll get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App. Quiero platicar de algo, nos estabas contando y obviamente si la siguen, tú recientemente, hace 2 meses, you became a first-time mommy. Cuéntanos todo eso. How did you find out you were pregnant? Were you having symptoms? How did you react when you saw that pregnancy test be positive? Who was the first person you told y cómo reaccionaron?
When I found out that I was pregnant, I was actually in the bathroom with my boyfriend, and weeks, ya tenía semanas, he was always like, Delayza, you're pregnant. I have a feeling you're pregnant. And I was
Did you have symptoms or no?
No, I didn't have any symptoms, especially because I was on birth control. I was on the patch. And I was like, no, like there's no way I could be pregnant. And my boyfriend kept telling me, you're pregnant. I have a feeling you're pregnant. TMI, but like I wouldn't let him in me because por lo mismo, yo no me sentía a gusto I never really liked to rely on birth control. I've always heard these crazy stories of girls being like, oh, I got pregnant off birth control on TikTok. And I'll be like, oh my God.
You're like, not me.
Yeah, I was like, mm-mm. He kept telling me, he's like, I think you're pregnant. And I'm like, no, there's no way. Like, he's like, you really trust that little sticker that you have on your stomach? And I was like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, pues poquito, you know? And he's like, just take a test. And I was working at the time. So he kept telling me, like, just take a test, Eliza. Just take one. Like, we actually had some tests there because I was throwing him his 21st birthday party. So in la piñata le iba a echar, like, condones and pregnancy tests.
Okay.
So we already had some. So I didn't have to go buy any. So every morning before work, he would be like, take a test today. Take a test, because siempre dicen that
you're
supposed to take your test in the morning porque it's like 100% accurate or whatever. And he would always tell me, and I'll be like, no, like, estás loco, like, I'm not pregnant, I feel fine, like, I'm okay, you know? One day after work, he just told me, he's like, you know what, just take a test, my birthday party's coming up, I don't want you to be drinking and, you know, for you to be pregnant. I'm on my way back from work and I'm on the phone with him, and he's like, you know what? He's like, let's just put our like mind to ease. And I was like, you know what? Yeah. Para que me deje de
chingar.
Sí,
yeah.
Pues. And he's always telling me, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take it. I get home and he has the test ready on the counter in the bathroom. And I'm like shaking and I'm like, no, there's no way. But in the back of my head, I'm like, what if I am? What if I am pregnant? What am I going to do? I was 19 at the time. I was going to turn 20. I had just moved in with my boyfriend not too long ago. So I was like, no, like, I can't be pregnant. I was like, there's no way. I remember just peeing on the stick, and my boyfriend's like, I need to pee. So se pone a miar él. Y yo como pensaba que I wasn't pregnant, I took a look at the pregnancy test and I saw 2 lines. I just remember looking at myself in the mirror and like I literally stepped back and I started bawling my eyes out. I was so scared. I was like, ¿qué voy a hacer? I'm pregnant. Like, I'm literally pregnant.
What was his reaction?
He was peeing.
I thought chilling. No, he was
peeing. And he's like, ¿qué tienes? But at the moment, he knew that I was pregnant because he saw the way I reacted. And pues, de volada, you know, he like stopped and he's like, are you okay? And he just hugged me.
Aww.
He just hugged me and I just was crying. And I was like, I'm pregnant. I kept telling him, I was like, I'm really pregnant. And then we both started crying.
How did you tell your parents? Was it scary? Like, especialmente porque tu mamá y tu abuelita siempre te decían, haz lo que tengas que hacer, pero no te me embaraces. Was it scary to like tell them? It was really
scary, and especially because we were in the process of buying our first home. So I was already stressed enough, and I was like, I can't have this on top of me too. Yeah. Like, I just found out that I was pregnant. How am I going to tell my mom? Like, I felt like in a way I had, you know, disappointed my mom. And that was like my biggest fear, to disappoint my mom. And when I told my mom, I was just like, I don't know, like, I was like, I'm sorry, like, I'm pregnant. And she started crying. Thankfully, we had really good reactions. Everyone was really, really, really supportive, which was really, I was in shock because I thought people were going to be like, ay, no.
That's muy joven.
What put them at ease was that they knew that we were trying to like buy a house and that we were financially stable.
En serio, pues. Yeah.
So they knew that it wasn't just like, oopsie, like I got pregnant. I was like, yeah.
So, ni conozco al papá.
Sí, no conoce quién será. Like, I don't have like a good relationship. We were together for 3 years. So at the time I was just like, no, you know what? Like, everything happens for a reason. And I knew God had sent me that baby for a reason. Especially being on birth control, I was just like,
what are the odds? Yeah,
what are the odds that this happened to me? And in that moment, you know, it was like everything just fell into pieces.
How was your pregnancy overall? Do you feel like you had like a smooth pregnancy? ¿Le batallaste? Did you have any like difficulties when it came down to your pregnancy?
Gracias a Dios, my pregnancy went really, really well. My boyfriend was really, he was everything. He was always making sure que every little antojo, he's like, vamos por él. Yo, ¿quieres que te sobe los pies? I worked all my pregnancy.
Yeah.
So he was always really supportive, and he was always trying to make sure that I was okay and that the baby was okay. I had a really smooth pregnancy, and I think a lot of the times I'm glad that I didn't post it on social media, because I feel like if I would have posted it on social media, I would have had negative comments, and that probably would have gotten to me. Because when I was pregnant, I was really, really sensitive. I was like, yeah, if someone would have commented, oh my God, you got so fat. Oh my God, you have the pregnancy nose. Yeah. Oh my God, you have this.
Was that something you struggled with? You know, obviamente, pregnancy is such a beautiful moment, pero también it takes a lot on on the women. You know, your body's changing, your hormones are through the roof. Was el ver cambiar a tu cuerpo, did that affect you in any way? You know, seeing seeing yourself get bigger, even though you knew you were creating life, did that cause any type of like insecurity, or it made you feel like, oh shit, like my body is changing? ¿Cómo te sentiste en ese aspecto?
In a way, I was actually happy that I was gaining weight, because for the longest time I struggled a lot like gaining weight. So when I started seeing that I was gaining weight, I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, I look good.
Yeah.
Like, I like how I look. And then out of nowhere, I got really, really big. And I was like, whoa.
You're like, whoa, whoa,
I was
whoa.
like, wait. I got like the pregnancy nose. And I think I actually made a YouTube video with my sister. And you can tell that I was pregnant. But like the camera was like up here. And everybody was in the comments like, oh my gosh, she has a pregnancy nose. She's pregnant. She got so fat.
Did you panic in that moment? You're like, oh my God, they're on to
I
me.
didn't really panic because I was already planning of announcing my pregnancy. But I was like, why do people comment that? Like, if I wasn't pregnant, why would they comment that? Like, I think that's not okay.
How was your birth? You know, obviamente you go through pregnancy y das a luz, you know, hace poco. What was that day like? Cuéntanos un poquito about your labor experience.
So I had my baby 3 months ago, and when I went into labor, I actually went into labor on a Sunday. I went in and I was like, I'm having a lot of contractions. I was not feeling well, and my mom was like, yeah, just go to the hospital and check it out, like see if you're dilating. And I was at 1 centimeter dilated for the longest. So when I went into the hospital, they're like, oh nope, you're still 1 centimeter dilated, and they're like, you actually have a UTI. And I was like, what?
You're like, por eso me ardía.
Ay, no sentía nada.
Oh, so tú ni en
Sentía
cuenta.
como un dolor like in my back.
Okay.
But supposedly that was just because I was having a UTI. And I've always been really sensitive. Like cualquier cosa, like me enfermaba de eso. I had the infection, so they sent me back home. They're like, nope, you're not in labor. So I go home. And the next day I think it was on a Monday or Tuesday, I had an appointment, or no, it was on Monday. I had an appointment on Monday with my OBGYN. She checks my cervix and she's like, you're still 1 centimeter dilated. And I was like, I'm still having like a little bit of pain. She's like, that's your UTI, you're fine. And at that doctor visit, I had noticed that my blood pressure was a little high and my heart rate was like at 140. And I was like, that's weird. My heart rate is actually pretty high. So they retake and it's still high. And she's like, no, there's no concerns. You can go home. You know, whenever you're in labor, just call us and let us know. We get out of the office and my boyfriend's like, let's go eat something. You know, maybe you just need to eat something. Maybe that's why your blood pressure's high and your heart rate. So when we get to this restaurant, we sit down and I start trying to eat the chips. And out of nowhere, I start shaking. Empiezo a temblar horrible, like it was so bad. It was like if I was having a panic attack. I've never had that ever before. Like I was shaking so bad to the point where I couldn't talk.
Like you started freaking out?
Yeah, se me hacía la boca like pa todos lados. Like I was freaking out, and I was like, I don't know if it was because I was having like an anxiety attack. Like I didn't know what was going on. I started getting hot. Like sentía todo el cuerpo caliente. My chest started hurting. I felt like my chest was gonna like explode.
Yeah.
And then I looked at my chest y estaba toda roja. And I was like, something's not right. Like, I don't feel okay. My boyfriend calls my mom and he's like, you know, suegra, like, this is going on. Like, what do I do? Like, Delayza doesn't feel good. Like, what should we do? And my mom was like, just take her to like an urgent care or like a next care, maybe her blood pressure or something. And I never had any complications during my pregnancy. So this was really weird for me. And I was really scared because me empecé a sentir como like if I was getting a fever. And I always heard that getting a fever during pregnancy is really bad.
Yeah.
So the first thing I was like, no, I want to go to the hospital. So I told my boyfriend, I was like, drive to my nana's house because my nana's house was right around the corner. So I told him, I was like, can you just drive to my nana's house and call the ambulance? I do not feel okay. So we get to my nana's house and I start bawling my eyes out because I just couldn't stop shaking. I felt like I was getting worse. My heart was getting really, really fast. And I was getting really scared. I was like, I was hoping everything was okay with my baby. Like, I just wanted everything to be okay. The ambulance gets there to my nana's and I'm freaking out. And they start doing like an EKG on me. They take my blood pressure. They check my heart rate and it was really high. It was almost at 200. And they're like, do you feel like you're having a heart attack? And I was like, no, I don't feel okay. I just remember being in my car and like, just trying to breathe and just praying. I was praying so much. I was like, Diosito, por favor. Like, I didn't even care about me. I was like, just my baby. I want my baby to be okay. Like, I felt like, oh my God, I'm gonna start getting emotional. I was just so scared at the moment. I was just like, I felt like I had my baby shower and I was like, I don't want to lose my baby. Like, that was the last thing I wanted. Ya teníamos todo preparado. So I was just scared. And I was just like, oh my God, like, please, like, I don't want anything bad to happen. Not to me, not to this baby. And as soon as they got there and they told me, they're like, do you feel like you're having a heart attack? And I was like, I know, like, I feel like I just can't breathe. I felt like I couldn't, sorry. I felt like I just was panicking. Like, I thought I was having a panic attack. And they're like, no, it's not a panic attack. They're like, you need to get to the hospital right now, and especially because you have a fever. My fever was like at 102. And that's the moment that they told me that, like, I started crying.
Did they tell you, like, oh, you're going into labor?
No,
or they just
I
said
was
you
not
need
in
to
labor.
go? Okay.
I wasn't in labor. And they're like, you're not having any contractions, right? And I was like, no, like, I don't feel anything. And so I was like, yeah, like, I just want to go to the hospital. And they're like, okay, like, do you want your boyfriend to drive you, or you can go in the ambulance? And I was like, no, like, I want to get there as soon as possible. So they took me in the ambulance, and we get to the hospital. And as soon as I get there, it was like literally like a movie scene. Me llevaron al cuarto, and they ripped my shirt. They ripped my shirt, and they start doing the EKGs again. Me tenían con los dos brazos así, sacándome sangre. They did so many tests, and they couldn't figure out why I was shaking. They couldn't figure out anything. Y lo resultó, they're like, oh, you probably have a UTI. And I was like, yeah. I was like, I was just in the ER on Sunday because of UTI, but a UTI really makes you shake that way and have a fever and feel like you're having a heart attack. Like, yo no les creí. I was like, no, like, there's no way that.
Like, búsquenle, hay
yes,
otra cosa.
I was like, what is going on with me? That had never happened. So they were like, you're going to have to stay overnight at the hospital. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. Like, they were monitoring my baby. She was okay. Like, her heart rate was normal. Her heart rate did go up a little bit when I was going up. Like, my heart rate was going up. Hers was going up a little bit. Doctors were like, we don't think the baby is, like, under any stress or anything like that, but we're going to keep you overnight to keep monitoring you. So I stayed there overnight, and my boyfriend had to work the next day. So he was like, do you want me to stay, or do you want your mom to come? And I was like, no, just tell my mom, like, just go to work. Like, I'm okay. Like, I felt safe knowing that my baby was okay and that they were monitoring me. In some way, I was at peace. Hearing her heartbeat, I was like, okay, she's okay. I need to calm down. I need to make sure I'm okay. So, like, you know. So, yeah, my boyfriend ends up leaving, and he tells my mom, like, you know, that he had to go work the next day. My boyfriend's like, yeah, you know, I would just call your mom so she can stay with you, and tomorrow I'll come first things in the morning once I'm done with work. So my boyfriend, he's like, you know what, I'm gonna go get your bag from the car, because I already had my hospital bag, because I was 38 weeks at the, oh no, I was about to be 39 weeks. So I knew that at any moment I can go into labor.
Usually cuando los tienen, like at 40, right? Or 38, 40 usually? Okay.
I had my due date February 18th.
Oh, okay,
so it was a week before that. So I knew that I could go into labor at any moment. So I had the baby's diaper bag and my diaper bag in the car. Everything was ready. So when my boyfriend goes for the stuff, I start having another episode of me shaking. And this time it was really bad. Like, my heart rate went up to 200. And the doctors come in and they're like, are you okay? Like, do you feel fine? And I was like trying to talk to them, and I couldn't, of how bad I was shaking. I kept shaking, and I was just like, what's going on? Like, this is crazy. And they actually had also told me that I had pulmonia. How do you say that in English? Pulmonia.
Like, is it the, like, coughing?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's pneumonia.
Pneumonia.
Yeah,
something
pneumonia,
like that.
Yeah.
I'm a homerico.
I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, you're the one that studied this.
They were kind of just telling me, you either have a UTI or pneumonia. They just didn't know what was going on. There were so many doctors working my case because they didn't know exactly why. Yeah. But I think they just told me, oh, you have a UTI. But I honestly think I was having like a panic attack. I think I was like getting into my head that I could go into labor at any second. And I was really scared.
Yeah.
So then my mom gets there and they keep running tests all night. So I didn't sleep. I hadn't slept and I was so tired. But they kept doing ultrasounds, heart x-rays. They were doing blood work. They had so many things going on. And at one point, it was, I think, around like 2, 3 in the morning. Me and my mom already settled into the room and we're trying to fall asleep. And this guy comes in. He's like, oh, I'm going to do an ultrasound of your, like, ribs. Well, not my ribs. Of my pulmones.
Okay.
He's like, I'm going to do an ultrasound of your pulmones. And I was like, oh, okay. Yo toda dormida. I barely slept like 5 minutes probably. I get up and they walk me over to the ultrasound room. And when I'm in the ultrasound room, I'm laying down on the bed. And I start getting, like, what felt like contractions.
The contraction, yeah.
When they put me back in the room with my mom, I look at my mom and I'm like, Mom, I think I'm having contractions. And she's like, I know, Delayza. Really? And I was like, I think so. And then the doctor comes in, or the nurse comes in, and she's like, oh, like, how was it? You know, like, you can finally go to sleep now. We're going to stop doing tests. And I'm like, no, I think I'm going into labor. And she's like, really? She's like, why now? You're literally, going through all this pain and you're going into labor at the same time. It just happened to be that I went into labor when I was feeling this way. She gives my mom like a little notepad and she's like, count her contractions. So my mom starts counting them. And they were like 3 minutes apart. They were like 4 minutes. The nurse comes in. She's like, yeah, she's in labor. They take me back to triage room and they check me. They check my cervix and they're like, you're 3 centimeters dilated. And I was like, oh my God, Mom. I was like, call Ramiro right now. He needs to get to the hospital now.
Was the hospital far from your guys' house?
Yeah, we live like an hour away from the hospital.
So you're scared que a lo mejor no le iba a tocar.
Yes, I was like, what if out of nowhere this baby comes out, you know? Yeah. So all the nurses already knew me because I was already there for like the whole day. And they're like, oh my God, you really went into labor when you're feeling like this. You're so sick. And they felt so bad. My mom's there and my boyfriend gets there and I'm like just breathing through the contractions. They weren't bad. Like honestly, they weren't bad at all. They felt like period cramps to me. So they weren't that bad and I was able to tolerate them. So I wasn't in too much pain. And then they gave me into the labor and delivery room and I decided to walk there because I was like, no, déjame caminar, you know? So we walked to the labor and delivery room and they checked my cervix again and I'm 6 centimeters.
Shit.
And I was like, oh my God, this is going by fast. And they're like, okay, do you want the epidural or not? And I was like, I don't want it. I didn't want the epidural because I wanted to experience having a baby naturally. Unfortunately, because I had not slept in those 24 hours, my doctor kept telling me, it's better if you get it because the moment that you start pushing, no vas a tener fuerza. So they're like, we would recommend for you to get the epidural. That way you are able to get a little bit of sleep in, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe it's like 20, 30 minutes, but at least you get some type of rest. So I got the epidural. So I was like, yeah, that's fine, you know.
So
I
no
was like,
sentiste like the actual giving birth?
No. And I felt a little bit because by the time that I started pushing, I felt my legs a little bit, but I didn't feel like the full-on birth. But when they put the epidural, like, no contractions, I was able to tolerate them. Like, I felt like I would have been able to do it without the epidural. Yeah. But the moment that they put the epidural, I took a nap. I, like, passed out. Yes, I passed out. And then I woke up and I was like, I need to take a shit. I was like, Mom, I need to take a shit. And in the room, it was my boyfriend, my mom, my nana, my suegra. And I kept telling them, I was like, siento que me voy a cagar. I was like, me voy a cagar. And they're like, ¿quieres ir al baño? And I was like, sí, ocupo ir al baño. Like, I need to go. And then my boyfriend's like, no. He's like, the nurse said that when you start feeling like that, it's because the baby wants to come.
You're like, no es que estás cagando.
And I was like, no, me estoy cagando. And my mom was like, no, you're in labor, Delayza. I was like, oh my God. I was like, call the doctor. So I called the doctor and I was like, I feel like a lot of pressure down there. I was like, can you come check me? They come in and they're like, you're 10 centimeters dilated. And they're like, okay, we're pushing. I had a midwife who delivered my baby. So the nurses come in, the midwife comes in, and it all happened so fast. Everything was already ready. So they just came in and they're like, okay, start pushing. And I was like, wait, how do I even push? And they're like, just start pushing. Whatever you feel, just push. The pressure you're feeling, just try to push it out. So I'm sitting, I'm basically like sitting, and I'm just trying to push. And I'm like, am I doing it right? Like, is it working? And I was like, put a mirror in front because I want to see everything. So they come in with a big mirror and they put it right in front of me. And they're like, okay, start pushing. And I'm pushing and I'm pushing and I'm just like holding it in. And I take some big breaths because at the same time I was really tired.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to like waste my energy that much. And I would just see, like, she had so much hair already. And I was like, oh my God, I could see the hair. Me desesperaba que I could see that she would come out and she'd go back in. I was like, girl, no, come out.
Salte,
like,
yeah.
Salte. And when they broke my water, they were like, oh, la niña se hizo del baño. I guess she had kind of like gotten in stress because of my fever and everything. So that like really scared me. But they're like, no, she's okay. Like, you know.
Like she pooped while
she
being
pooped.
in the bag still?
She pooped. And they said that was bad. Like, salió todo verde. It was really bad. And they scared me when they said that. They're like, oh, she pooped. And I was like, oh no. Like, I felt so bad. I felt like, I don't know, like, I was like, I hope my body like is able to handle this, you know? I was just trying to take my time, really breathing through my contractions and just pushing through it. And yeah, finally I had my baby. And the moment that they put it on my chest, it was like so unreal. Like, I couldn't believe that I carried that baby for 9 months and that my body was able to create such a a beautiful human. I couldn't believe that my body really did that. When I had her in my chest, I was just looking at her, and I was looking at her little hands and her nose and everything, and I was like, my body created a whole life.
A life, yeah.
And it was so unreal for me. And in that moment, like everything, like seeing those two positive lines just meant everything. Like I was meant to be a mom, and I know this is what was planned for me. I know that in this life, like although maybe my chapter wasn't written the way I thought it was going to be, I'm glad, everything turned out the way it did, because I love being a mom. Like I said, I think I was meant to be a mom.
A lot of women, struggle with postpartum depression, or it's just really hard adjusting to the new mom life, the schedules, the waking up in the middle of the nights. How has the postpartum period been for you?
I don't want to say that necessarily it's like postpartum depression that I know of, but my emotions have been all over the place. There's some days where I'm really mad for no reason, or I'm really sad and happy, and it's just like every day is a new emotion for me. And it's been a little rough trying to adjust to this new mom life and accepting the fact that my body made a whole baby. Like I said earlier, I've always been super skinny. So it's been an insecurity of mine being skinny. But at the same time, now I'm just like, oh my God, I can't lose weight.
Yeah.
Like, I want my body back. And I just try to remind myself, like, you just created a whole life. You carried a baby for 9 months. Like, give yourself time. And I think what's really bad is that you see these girls on social media and you're like, I want their body.
Yeah.
I want to be like them. I want to bounce back as soon as I have a baby. And that's not the case for everyone. Yeah. Everyone's body is different. And I think it took me a while to accept that, because I was like, in my head, I was like, I'm going to bounce back as soon as I have this baby, because I seen this influencer be like that. I seen this person like that. But once again, I try to remind myself, my body is different from everyone else's. Yeah. I carried a baby for 9 months, and it was one of the most beautiful things ever. And I have to remember that, I put my body through a lot, and I need to give myself time to not only heal, but, to go back to the way I was. And slowly, like, my postpartum, like I said, it hasn't been the easiest. There's days where I just cry and I miss being pregnant. I have like those baby blues, and I'm just like, I miss my baby being a newborn. Now she's 3 months. So when I look at her, I just cry, and I just hold her in my arms at night, and I just kiss her, and I'm like, oh my God, you're growing up so fast. Like, why is time going by so fast? I don't want my baby to grow up, but at the same time, I want her to grow up, and I want to give her the life I never had as a baby or as a toddler or whatever. I want to give her the life that I didn't have growing up. I want to give her everything I didn't.
Yeah. And
when I say that, I especially mean having a mom and a dad together. Yeah. That's been my biggest goal for now that I have my own kids. I want to be like, I want them to have a mom and dad, and for them to grow up and be like, my mom and dad love each other so much. Like, I want them to have that type of, experience growing up.
Se mira mucho que, a lot of people around you, let's say your family, even a veces se mira que hasta los propios esposos están muy como concentrados en el bebé, and they don't check up, on the women. At the end of the day, you're the one also going through it. You just had a baby, you just created life, you're going through a lot of hormonal change. Do you feel like you've had the support from, your partner and the people around you? If not, who have you felt like has made this like chapter hard for you?
My boyfriend has been one of my biggest supporters ever. I think he's always supported me in everything, social media wise, career wise, what I want to do. And now that we are parents, he has been my number one supporter. I really never had anyone coming over to my house and taking care of the baby while I slept a little bit. He was the one doing that. We would take turns, and he will help me clean the house. And I think I'm forever grateful for the type of partner that God put me in my life, because without him, I don't think I would have been able to get through this. Because at the beginning, it was really hard. Like I said, I would look at myself in the mirror and I'll be like, oh my God, like, that's not me. Like, what's going on? Like, at the last few weeks of my pregnancy, I started getting stretch marks. So that's something that became a big insecurity of mine. And I would see myself and I was like, oh my God, like, I have like this mom belly, like, how do I get rid of it? But I was barely like a month, of having my baby. During my postpartum, my boyfriend has been my biggest supporter, and it really sucks, but the people that you least expect, sometimes back away from you. You really see who your friends are during postpartum. I mean, you really see who family is during postpartum. And I think that's when you mostly need people, and they don't realize that. Now that I became a mom and I'm going through postpartum, I have friends who I wish I would have checked up on.
Yeah.
I wish I would have been like, hey, how's your postpartum? Because you don't really know what it is. You don't really know what it feels like until you go through it. All my mommy friends, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I didn't check up on you. Like, I didn't know it was this hard. My mother-in-law, I mean, she really hasn't made it any easier. We recently just got into like an argument, and it really hurt me because I'm going through a lot like during my postpartum, and she made me go through it a lot more after having the argument with her. She kind of just backed away from us. And then what really hurt me was when she said that she wasn't going to go to my daughter's birthday party if so-and-so wasn't invited. And that really hurt me. It really hurt me because now that I'm a mom, I understand por qué mi mamá me quería meter en una cajita cristalina para que nunca me pasara nada. And I want to make sure my baby's around good people and that she's loved and cared for.
Yeah.
And her saying that really hurt me because I was like, you don't care about my daughter then? She was so excited to be a grandma. It's her first grandchild. So I thought she was going to be over the roof, and she made me go through a lot. Now,
how does your boyfriend feel, en esa situación? Obviamente, I'm sure que él está como entre la espada y la pared con su pareja y con su mamá, which I'm sure he loves both of you guys a lot. How has he reacted to that? Does he kind of reassure you like, mira, mi amor, I'm sorry that my mom's being this way, just know that I support you? How has that been with you and him?
Yeah, he talks to his mom, and he tells her like, mom, like, you need to like calm down, or you need... he tries to talk to her, but she doesn't really understand. Ella está aferrada, and that's the way she thinks, and that's the way she's gonna keep thinking of me or the situation. She doesn't really believe in the way I want to raise my kid.
Yeah.
She's like, no, you have to raise them this way, or you have to do this, or she has that. Like, you need to go through the book, And I'm like, no, I'm gonna raise my baby the way I want, or how we want, because me and my partner are in this together. And I'm so glad he understands my point of view, and he accepts, the fact that things are going to be the way that we say, not what other people say.
And I feel like that's the hard part, obviamente, I don't know, and I've never been in that situation, pero sí he escuchado mucho, where sometimes the suegros, are too metidos or want to have you raise your kid the way they raise their, but it's like, no, this is my child and I'm going to raise my baby however I want to. There's boundaries I'm going to put. Si no se respetan, well, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? You're going to have to miss out on my child's life because you don't want to, como se dice, como acomplarte a lo que nosotros estamos decidiendo para nuestro bebé. Obviamente, motherhood, it's such an amazing thing. What do you feel like, now after becoming a mother, what do you feel like has been the biggest life lesson you've learned through this whole journey?
Becoming a mom has taught me a lot of patience. Antes yo no tenía nada de paciencia. Like, I would get so mad. I would yell. Like, I was like, I didn't have patience. I had a little bit of patience, but this baby has really changed my life. Like, overnight, it took a 360.
Yeah.
It's definitely taught me patience, and I didn't think it was possible to love a human being the way I love my baby.
Do you feel like life has slowed down as well? Like, obviamente, nos cuentas that you love the desmadre, the going out. How have you been feeling en ese aspecto, el de que pues tu vida ya no es as liberal a lo que era antes? Has that started to like take an effect, or you're like, no, I'm embracing this new chapter of my life, ya me aloqué a todo lo que daba, I want to now be a mom? How has that been for you?
Yeah, me and my boyfriend were always like clubbing and partying las rutas. Like, we would just, boom, nos íbamos, We wouldn't care about anything. Like, we would get home until 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. Like, we didn't have a responsibility.
Yeah.
We didn't care. So now that we became parents, we're like, oh my God, like, our lives changed so much. But I think it's for the best. I think everything happens for a reason, of course. And now that we have a kid, we have to think about, oh my God, like, we can't go out the way that we used to. We haven't gone out in 3 months already. Since we had the baby, we haven't gone out. And we had like a couple grupos come to our house, y tocan y todo, but I'm always like, okay, I need to get the baby to sleep first, and then she's, and then it's party time. Yeah. But no one has taken care of my baby so far, because I'm always like, no, like, I want to, take care of her. I don't want, anyone else to take care of her but me.
And I feel like that's super valid. Obviamente, it's a very adjusting period. And, even if you guys have moments where you're like, oh my God, this is hard, you guys will get through it. Ya para terminar el tema de tu relación, de tu embarazo y del amor, nos contaste que, you guys bought a house during the same time you were pregnant. Pero literal, este fin de semana, el Día de las Madres, you became a fiance.
Yes.
Cuéntanos todo eso. How did it happen? How did he propose? Did you catch any hints that he was gonna do it? Was it a surprise? Cuéntanos todo eso.
On Saturday for Mother's Day, pues el 10 de mayo, he was already acting a little suspicious because I had my Shein cart and I kept telling him, I was like, when you propose, I need to be wearing black because I look good in black.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want a black dress. And I told him I found one on Shein and I was like, look, this is the dress I want. He's like, just order it. And he's like, you can have it in the closet. You never know when I'm going to propose. But I'm going to know that you're going to propose because I'm going to wear the dress.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you're not. He's like, watch, I'm going to do something good. He's like, order it. Here's my card. So I order it and it gets here. And I try it on. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to look good the day that you propose with this dress. Y like, siempre le tiraba little hints like, apúrate, like, you need to propose. I give you a whole baby and you haven't proposed. I was like, this is so embarrassing. A baby without a ring. Like, I was not ready for those comments, but I knew I was going to get those comments. Pero como digo, everyone's story is different. Everybody's chapter is written differently. And the order doesn't matter as long as it gets done. So I knew that he was going to do it, but, I needed time to heal because I just had a baby. We had just gotten a house. So I knew we had a lot of things on our plate. And I was just like, whenever the time is right, he's going to do it. And I knew he was going to do it because he would always tell me, he's like, I want to marry you. Yeah. I want to marry you and I'm going to do it. Just give me time to, one, be financially good. He got like a really good job now. So he feels ready to like go all out for a proposal, of course. So on Saturday, he told me, he's like, oh, we're going to go get dinner. We're going to go somewhere fancy. Y yo soy bien acá. I was like, no, like, let's just go get some tacos. Like, no, like, I don't want to go anywhere fancy because yo soy bien picky with my food. And I was like, I'm probably just going to order a Caesar salad, which I did because I hate trying new food. So I was like, no, like, let's just go to, like, get tacos or, like,
Aquí cocinamos en la
like,
casa.
I want dogos. Like, I wanted something, like, super simple. I was like, I'll go, like, chiquito. He's like, no, it's your first Mother's Day. We have to go all out. And I was like, no, it's fine. So anyways, he convinced me. He convinced me to get all glammed up. I got my nails done. I got my eyelashes done. And at the same time, I thought he was telling me to get my nails done and stuff because he knew I was coming on the podcast. So he's like...
So he's like, arréglate, mi amor.
He's like, you're going to be on camera. You needed to look good. So I was like, Saturday comes and I get ready. I get all glammed up, like I said. I started kind of having a weird gut feeling that something was going to happen. I just didn't know exactly what was going to happen. I was like, maybe it's a 50-50 that he would propose. I wasn't too sure.
And you were wearing the dress?
I was wearing the dress. I was wearing the heels I wanted to wear. Like, I had my hair done. Everything was ready. I was like, this is exactly how I want to look the day that he proposes. And he was wearing the exact same outfit that he would always be like, this is what I want to wear when I propose to you. In a way, like, I kind of knew, but I was like, no creo. So we go out to dinner and we're eating and everything. He's trying to buy time. He's like, hey, like, order a drink. And I was like, no, like, we had caguamas at the house. And I was like, no, I would just drink a caguama. Like, I'm fine. I don't want this fancy wine. Like, I don't want this. He's like, no, like, get something, like, trying to kill time, And I was like, no. Let's go home. And then my comadre was actually taking care of the baby. And this was the first time that we had left the baby with someone. So I was like, we need to go home with the baby. Like, what if she's crying? Like, what if she doesn't feel comfortable? So he's like, no, the baby's fine. He kept calling her. She's like, no, the baby's fine. Like, you guys have a good time. After that, he's like, oh my God. He's like, I'm so full. Let's go walk around at the mall. The mall was right in front of the restaurant. So we go walk for a little bit. And he's like, oh, I'm going to go wash the car now. Let's go wash the car. And I was
You're like on Mother's Day.
Yes, I was like, why? We just washed it. And he's like, no, it's been a little dusty. Let's go wash it. So we go and I'm like, he's trying to kill time. And he's like, oh, I'm going to go to Total Wine. I'm going to get some beer and I'm going to get this and I'm going to get that. And I was like, why is he like doing all of this? So he goes and he's like, oh, I couldn't find Red Bulls. Let's go to Dollar General. So we go to Dollar General. So estamos dando la vuelta por todo Tucson trying to find freaking Red Bulls. And I was like, he's trying to kill time. Yeah. I was like, he's proposing. So I was actually vlogging, and I said in the vlog, I was like, I have a feeling he's gonna propose. And I was like, I'm pretty sure it's happening today. So we get to my house, and he's like, here, put this blindfold. So I put it on, and at that moment, I was like, he's proposing.
It's happening.
It's happening.
Oh my God.
I get off the car, and we have like rocks in our terreno. So it was so hard for me to walk in my red bottoms. I was wearing these little delgaditos. Yes. So I kept getting stuck. I would walk and I would like mondia, and I was like, oh my God, this cannot be happening. Like, I do not want to fall while he's proposing or whatever. So the moment that my mom grabs me, and I was like, who's grabbing me? I was like, what the heck? Like, I could feel that it was someone else, not him. My mom puts me in front of like the letters. It said like, marry me. And they take off my blindfold, and I started crying.
Aww.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, in the way, I was like, yes, I was like, I knew it was gonna happen, but I still couldn't believe that he had gone all out. Like, he had gotten chispas and fireworks and all this. So it was really like unreal. And then when I get to him, he's just telling me, like, he's like, I know that, you know, we had a baby and everything, but I've always wanted to propose to you. You know, thank you for waiting and giving me time. We met when we were really young, and we weren't, you know, he wasn't doing good, like, financially wise. So he was like, gracias por ser la mujer del proceso, like, for always like sticking with me and never letting go, because I know that at the beginning, you know, it wasn't, you know, he wasn't in the best situation. The moment he starts talking, I'm just like bawling my eyes out, and I couldn't believe that he was actually doing it. He gets down on one knee, and I'm like, this is really happening.
It's too much.
This is really happening.
Oh my God.
And I was just bawling my eyes out, and he puts on the ring, and I'm looking, and I'm literally shaking. And
it's a big ring.
Yeah.
It's huge. Look at that, you guys.
Yeah.
Miren ese pinche anillazo, amigas. No mames.
Yeah,
that's
I actually had a
crazy.
promise ring. So he takes off the promise ring, and then he puts on this ring. And I was like, that was an upgrade.
You're like, this is better.
Yes,
like,
I was like, I like this one.
Yeah.
I was like, I like this
Have you guys started planning like the wedding?
We're going to get married through the civil. And I'm trying to book that as soon as possible. Just because we're not planning to do a big party just for the boda del civil. We're going to probably just go out for dinner or something simple like that. And then for the actual wedding, we want to do something really big. And we're going to have it in Mexico with all our family members and everything. So for that, we don't know exactly yet. Maybe like in a year or two.
Yeah. I feel like that's a good time frame though. Like a year. I feel like usually people wait like a year.
I'm very, very excited. And hopefully I don't get pregnant again on birth control, because ojalá like todos los ángeles estén conmigo, because I do not want to get pregnant before, you know, getting like married and everything again. So I'm like, I'm good with the baby that I have right now for right now. And then after the wedding, then we'll plan of having another baby. But for now, I want to get married. I want to have la boda de mis sueños, and me quiero ver en un vestido blanco.
I love that. You know, ya para terminar la entrevista, ¿en dónde te miras tú en los próximos 5 años? Whether that's career-wise, you know, as a mommy, relationship-wise.
Definitely married. I want to make sure that, you know, I change my last name to Rodriguez, and hopefully have another baby. My goal is to have two to three babies. Maybe 2, maybe 3. A ver, si latina con el niño, maybe, you know.
Vamos a ver en dónde la vida la lleva, you guys, en los próximos 5 años. Ahorita dice que a lo mejor unos 2 o 3. ¿Qué tal que en unos 5 años tengas todo un kinder?
I know.
Uno nunca sabe, you guys.
I'm gonna be like my mom con 6 chamacos.
Literally, no, you guys, o a lo mejor le vas a ganar, duplicarlos por 2, va a tener 12.
A whole baseball team. No, it's because I actually
team.
love being pregnant. So I was like, I need to control myself. Like, I love being pregnant.
I love it too much.
I love it too much, pero I need to calm down tampoco. So.
Thank you so much for being here with us el día de hoy, amigas. Si ustedes no lo han seguido, ahorita agarren su pinche teléfono y síganla en todas sus redes sociales. I will go ahead and link them down below, as well as on the screen right here, right now. Y no se les olvide también seguirme a mí, so you guys won't miss any future episodes. And with that being said, thank you so much once again for being with us today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys. Yay! That was so good.